Oh no, turn it off. Turn it off. I have a I have a problem getting lipstick on my teeth all the time. Hold on. Terrible. Okay. I'm so sorry. Okay, we're live. Good morning and welcome everyone. I appreciate you coming in to watch another segment of From the Heart Health Conversations with Patty as part of my American Heart Association Woman of Impact campaign process. So today we are going to discuss nutrition and heart health with a very dear friend of mine and a colleague. Her name is Nicole Barone, and she is a certified health coach and peak performance strategist. She has her own company. And here's a little bit more about Nicole. She came from a pharma background, big corporation, left, started her own firm, and doing consulting. And she focuses on health and well-being. So she works with a lot of clients one-on-one, but she's also got this giant heart, and she gives back to the community doing speaking engagements. And sometimes American Heart Association calls on her to go into a corporation, talk to the employees about living healthier lifestyle because then they can be more productive. And personally, Nicole is a very important part of my life. I have been actually working with her from a nutrition standpoint as it pertains to my heart health, my weight loss. And she's really been instrumental helping me understand food better, how to read food labels, what I need to be putting in my body. So without further ado, please welcome Nicole Barone. Hi, Nicole.
Hi. Hi, Patty. What a beautiful welcome. I'm so excited to be here today. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you for being here. So, is there anything else that you want to say before we get into our questions?
That was just a gorgeous, beautiful intro. I have nothing else to add.
Okay.
Thank you. Can you do that every time for me?
Okay, so we're going to talk today about being a food detective. And
Yeah.
that's a term that you used with me. And it's really spot on when it comes to learning more about nutrition and learning more about foods, other foods not me. And I remember when I had my heart attack almost 3 years ago, the very first thing I had to do, as soon as I came out of the hospital, I had to cut sodium. And I think we spent 2 hours in the grocery store going up and down the aisles, reading labels about sodium, which of course, I'm going to let you talk about it later, but gosh, I could just eat a can of soup and blow my sodium intake for the day. So that was a challenge. And then I had to pay attention to the trans fats and the cholesterol, and that all on top of paying attention to my carb intake because of type 2 diabetes. So I really got hammered between the two diseases. So it was pretty overwhelming. And I figured that it was going to be ice cubes and melted toast for me. But that really wasn't the case. There's a lot out there and it's changed a lot. So will you talk a bit about what we should be looking at when we're reading food labels and why is this an important habit to develop?
Absolutely. And I'm glad that you referenced that, Patty, and remembered that I talked to you about wearing that detective hat, right? We're going in and we're searching, and we have to really understand like what's going into our body. And we're not really taught that. And what was taught to us as young kids is no longer relevant. It actually changes all the time. And one of the things that I try to really do is working with clients is have them really become empowered to understand. And as you remembered when we had talked and first met, I really live by the words of making health your hobby. Right. And then it kind of goes hand in hand with that, where you can then start to understand and looking at different things. You had to jump right into it. But working with clients to make those small changes, we do it over time. You kind of had to go right into the fire to change your health all the way, and you've done it, which is incredible. So I feel like, helping people and educating them on different aspects of their life to make it better and making those small steps that really lead to big changes is the way to go.
Yeah, and it was small changes. And one of the things my cardiologist told me was a big no-no is processed foods. And, so of course, everything I love, right? But it's actually good. I have to tell you, long term, I love that I don't eat processed foods anymore. And I know how to identify them. But can you clarify what processed foods is, what it contains, and why is it that we just need to eliminate that stuff from our diet?
Yeah, and that is such a good question. And it's one that I always try to clarify when I speak in front of a group of people, because I feel that in this whole health industry, there's a lot of labeling of different terms and people don't understand. But when we grew up, our moms would make us food from meat, fruits, vegetables, and actually real food. A processed food came in to make our life easier, but in fact, it just is hindering us. A processed food is something that's in a package. It has more than 10 ingredients. It has a lot of additives into it, so it can have a really long, stable shelf life. And so I always really try to tell people to eat food that doesn't have that, right? That is just, like I said, the protein, the vegetables, the fruits, the things that have no packaging is really what it is. So processed foods are a challenge. They have more and more become part of our lives, and we have to become, even like we talked about, being more of a detective to look inside of them. So processed just means anything that's really in a package, and we can talk more about clarifying that.
Okay. And so right along on the flip side of don't eat processed foods is your favorite, Nicole, and that's eating clean. And that's a term
Oh boy.
that's become popular. So, before you said something about anything that has 10 ingredients or more is probably something you don't want to have. And so there's eating clean and there's eating organic. And you and I have gone back and forth because I'm one of those people that says, you're never going to convince me to be 100% organic. And you're one of those people that says, organic, baby. Talk about the eating clean, farm to table, and organic, and what that's all about.
Yeah, so it's actually two different things. And I don't like the word eating clean because we don't. Nobody eats clean. If you have ever eaten out, and I'm sure you have, or taken food in, you didn't prepare it. So I kind of try to say that, like, that labeling of eating clean, it's really hard to say that, oh, I eat clean, so therefore I'm fine and everything's fine. So it's interesting. So unless you're preparing the food, you don't know what's in the food. What is the restaurant? What oil are they using?
Yeah.
What ingredients are they using? Where are they getting their food sourced from? Right. So I'm just saying that's a really fine line. And I feel like that terminology needs to kind of be wiped out. It's about being aware of what we're putting into our body and how we fuel our body.
Yeah.
On terms of being organic, I think that's a really interesting term. And people say, well, I eat everything organic. I shop the organic section and I'm fine. So that's not the case either, because you can't eat everything organic. It's not available to us. If your budget allows, there are a couple of foods that you should probably get organic because they have lower pesticides. My passion is a lot around toxicity. And when I realize how many toxins are out there and GMOs and genetically modified organisms, which is what GMO stands for, then you can really better serve yourself. So I don't feel that you have to buy everything organic, but there's probably a couple of key foods that you should invest in just to lower your exposure to keep it healthier for you.
Before we move on, when you talked about going out to restaurants, and I know that when I stopped going out because I realized that there's a ton of sodium in just about that restaurants are notorious putting more sodium in things they're preparing. Do you have any thoughts about that?
Absolutely. I mean, that's why sometimes people get frustrated when they're cooking at home and say, well, my food doesn't taste like the restaurant. Like, how do we get restaurant kind of quality at home? And it's they're inundating it with the salt and additives in there when they're cooking it. So it's just probably double or triple of what you're doing at home, as well as also the fats. And that's why sometimes it has more flavor. You know, they're cooking with the butters and the oils and things like that too. So it's a way to kind of educate yourself and understanding what's going in, and then also switching your palate a little bit too to become more accustomed to less salt. And over time, you've done that. Now you're super hypersensitive to what's good and what's not in your body because you
Oh,
become
yeah,
really aware.
it's true. You really, I mean, yeah, I know when I've had too
Hmm.
much sodium. I do know. Not only on the scale, but
Correct.
I can
Yeah.
feel it in my body and I can feel it in my chest too. Um, so Nicole, you know that I'm a huge advocate of seeking out professional services. I like to go to the pros. And after I had my heart attack, my cardiologist sent me to a nutritionist, through the medical system to help me get my heart healthy diet together. And just funny, I just want to share that with everyone. When I went to see my cardiologist for my first checkup, the only question I had for him was, what kind of snacks can I eat? I need some crunch in my life. And he looked at me like I was crazy, but I really needed that. So when I went to see the nutritionist, it was my first appointment, and I sat down with her. She said, how can I help you today? And I said, well, I want to learn how to eat snacks. What can I eat? And so she pulled out a stack like this high of bags and spent an hour with me reading labels with trans fat, sodium, carbs, fat, and calories was almost the last thing we looked at. It was fascinating and it was important. And again, there are so many more things out on the market for us, but I'm straying off topic here. Here's a question. Tell us the difference between a nutritionist and a dietitian.
Sure. So those are really great questions. And a lot of times when you're with your doctor, they're going to navigate you and recommend a nutritionist just to get you on the right track as your doctor did, which is great. Everybody has a role out there. And between the dietitian and nutritionist, they're very, very similar. They're basically going to design for you a meal plan, something of a program that's going to be designed for you with limitations on what you should not be eating or eating more of this versus more of that. In this case, monitoring sodium was your, call to action of seeing what was in your diet overall. And that's a great direction to go. One, because a lot of times the nutritionist is covered by a health care plan. So that's a great conversation to have with them.
Yeah.
However, they don't do the coaching aspect that I would do. So those two individuals they may, but not all of them are. So it's always good to seek them out. But they're really going to be designing a program for eat this and kind of this structure. I'm not so much calorie driven as I am driven about what is actual real food that you're putting into your body and what works
Mm-hmm.
for you and your schedule. But those are great questions. And a lot of times people seek them out. And then I feel like as a coach, where I go in and customize something to make that approachable to an individual to that further. So they all play an integrated role, which is great. And the best thing is to get started by talking to people and talking to more people, exactly what you did, Patty.
So, nutritionist and dietitian kind of the same.
Yep,
Oh,
basically kind of the same. Yeah. So a dietitian is really going to give you a detailed schedule menu of what you're going to be eating.
yeah,
And they're going to
got
kind
it.
of do that. Yeah. Yeah. So they're going to
That
focus on that.
okay, that makes sense. So, does it matter if you seek out one or the other
So not
with
as
with
much.
those
I mean,
specific terms?
Yeah, not as much. I mean, I think some healthcare plans will say you could go, talk to a nutritionist and it's somewhat covered with maybe a small copay. And also some may be covered a dietitian. I find that the nutritionist may be covered more so. It just depends on your particular plan. But dietitians you see more so in the hospital settings a lot where they're putting together a scheduled plan for like an inpatient patient to say, okay, this person has to be very restricted on their sodium, on their
Okay.
sugar intake, and that.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So let's talk for a minute about compatibility issues because I have a real issue with it. That there are just so many people out there now that have coined themselves health coaches, and I'm scared because I feel like a lot of them just dive into giving advice to clients without first having them check with doctors. And you and I even know
Mhm.
before we started talking, before I started working with you, you wouldn't even let me start working with you until I had reached out to both my endocrinologist and my cardiologist to let them know what I was doing and make sure it was cool. And we had a clean slate to start working together. And credibility, of course, shot up for me. And I think you have a lot of integrity. Will you just kind of talk for a minute about just onslaught of health coaches, any guidance for people seeking out a health coach and what they should be looking for?
Yeah, thank you so much for that. And I just so appreciate the opportunity that we've had to work with. I think the biggest thing is to understand the individual that you're talking to and having a conversation with them and that it's a win-win and also having the credentials behind it. A lot of people have coined that, they've taken charge of their health and then they've sort of labeled themselves, well, I do everything health related or a health consultant, you may say.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just someone that's really taken health to their level and want to help other people, which it's all great about helping people. But there
Yeah.
should be some credentials behind the individual that you're working with and that they've been schooled in that particular area. And then to your point, you definitely want to have the individual, or when I'm working with someone that, communicate with their doctor and having that dialogue. And that's the
Mm-hmm.
biggest thing. It's like, I am not a doctor. I am guiding you to
You
your
don't
best
play. You
health.
don't play one on TV.
I don't play one on TV. I don't try to be a doctor. I want to be in collaboration with your doctor and I want to have that discussion.
Okay. Um, okay. So we touched just a little bit on doctor, the word doctor. So let's talk a little bit more about diet and medications. What would you advise with regard to people thinking, having a mindset and goal to get out of their meds faster by eating healthier and or losing weight? Is getting off the meds the goal?
That's not my goal. My goal is to always work with a client to get them to be their best self and
Mm-hmm.
and be in their best health. That's a discussion that the client I'm working with has with their doctor. I could never say we're going to get you off your medication. That would be, or any coach, that would be the wrong thing to say.
Mm-hmm.
But if someone comes to me and says, and I have this quite a lot, where a client will come and say, my doctor wants to put me on this medication, but they said if I make some changes to my lifestyle
Mm-hmm.
and cut back on some things, could you help me? And that's where I help. And I say, yeah, reach out to your doctor, let them know you're working with a coach. We're going to get you to feeling better, and then they can retest you with your labs or have that
Yeah.
conversation again. So it's a constant opportunity to have a dialogue with the doctor. Not, I'm not here
I
to
think,
say
yeah, I think
anything.
it, and I think it goes both ways. That's a
Mhm.
really interesting point to remember if you're early stages of any type of ailment, to have that conversation with your doctor to say, I don't know if I want to go down the better
Mhm.
living drug-free path. Is there anything I can do to avoid having to start?
Totally.
And the
That
doctor's gonna, like I'm on 5 medicines now between the diabetes and the heart disease, and I probably come off of a lot of them, but we made a decision together through dialogue that through the pandemic, we were going to leave me exactly where I am because we didn't want to risk adverse effect that would put me in the hospital. So it is about that conversation, definitely. So here's another question, kind of a medical question. It's about the relationship between diabetes, heart disease, and I think I'm one of your perfect clients because I have both, and you got to work with me. And I noticed this past year that the American Heart Association and the American Diabetes Association started co-branding in their marketing, which makes really great sense because the two diseases are so closely linked. Can you talk for a few minutes about diabetes? And I think it's mostly diabetes type 2 that we're talking about,
Yep.
and the relationship to heart health, to possible women avoid.
Yeah, so it's interesting. It kind of segues into what we were just saying before. Like, you are not your parents' story. You are not your family's story, right? And if you can really take charge of your health, and I really applaud you, Patty, and just creating this environment for people to get educated and learn. And that's really what all of it is about. Don't wait until it's too late or until you feel like that's where you have to go. But getting back to your question, yeah, we are seeing a dramatic correlation between diabetes and heart disease and kind of a lot of different ailments that are really can spring up very rapidly together. And the challenge is that, it used to be 1 in 3 individuals would become down with type 2 diabetes. And now we're seeing that rise. And it's 1 in 2 individuals. And it's very scary. Because you can really manage your blood sugar intake when you're working with a coach, when you're aware yourself of what you're putting in your body. But what's happening is we are a sugar nation. Back in my generation with when I was growing up with my parents, it was, educating us not to smoke. And now I'm doing a lot of education about sugar. And sugar is that very bad culprit. It's that hidden ingredient in every single packaged box food. Currently, there are over 50 names for sugar on packaging and labeling. And so, as I was saying, the detective hat, you have to be almost a researcher to understand these food labels, but to know that you, by the sugar intake, it's causing that blood glucose to go haywire. It also reacts in your body to have you want more, and then obviously other issues and challenges. So you become more sedentary, you kind of are in this brain fog. It has all these different ramifications for people's health, and it's just hindering us. So there is definitely that correlation that we're seeing in that. And that can be modified and changed and managed by changing what we're putting into our bodies. Well, and that's the biggest thing.
With sugar specifically, real sugar, cooking, not processed foods, but cooking at home, the brown sugar and the real sugar. Okay. Yeah. That's okay. That's not really our enemy.
It's not our enemy. No.
It's the Three Musketeers and the cereals and.
Yeah. I could spend 30 minutes talking about sugar, and I would be honored to do so. But just to point it up, and I'll say it this way when I share, it's avoid the pink, yellow, and blue packages of those artificial sugars. And then it's the corn syrup solids. It's the modified cornstarch. It's all of these additives and these compounds that are created, and your body doesn't recognize it. So yeah, the body can have a little bit of sugar, but it's all the other stuff that you're putting on, and it can't fight. It can't work. The engine of the body cannot work when we're inundating it with sugar. So, and the other big one that I've talked about before is aspartame. We're seeing it less and less, but that's an artificial sugar that your body does not recognize as anything. And it ends up wreaking havoc on your body with migraines and headaches and, kind of just all these like dizziness. It has a lot of different symptoms that can come up, but that was manufactured and utilized in yogurt a lot and salad dressings. We're seeing less and less of it, but it's the artificials that we have to really be careful of. But yeah, being aware of sugar, reducing that from your body is awesome for your health. You're going to have so many ramifications of better energy, just better lifestyle altogether. Yeah. So sorry, I'm super passionate about that.
So now let's talk about my favorite topic, food.
Okay.
And one thing, I've learned, I live by, I honor is that small lifestyle changes make a big difference when it comes to nutrition. For me, it's headed off more serious heart issues happening for me. And I think on a day-to-day basis, I can't say that my diet is the most exciting diet in the world, but I know it's a good diet. So will you just talk a little bit about what a typical breakfast, lunch, and dinner that's heart healthy might consist of, or like?
Absolutely. I think the biggest thing is that working with a client, I'm trying to figure out what their likes are and dislikes are as it relates to food, if they have any allergies and all. But I'll just give you kind of an overall of what someone can do for the day. As we age, this is even more important. And I will tell you that the one thing I try to think about and educate my clients is protein. So we're not getting enough protein, therefore we're craving a lot of other foods. So a schedule might be something as simple as having eggs in the morning, maybe with some green vegetables, with some spinach or broccoli, making a little omelet of some sort, having a protein shake with greens. For lunch, having some, salad and some chicken, or even some tuna or some kind of fish that you'd like. Mm-hmm. And then having some healthy snacks during the day, some nuts, piece of fruit, some berries are really good, an apple, having a hard-boiled egg, having, things that are real foods. And then for dinner, having a lean protein, having vegetables, again, just mixing that up. I'm a real proponent for having something green in your diet every day. And then lots of water throughout the day. The body has to flush out the toxins in the body as well too. So there's a lot that you can eat, and people don't realize that. And working with someone like myself, it'll give you the structure and kind of identifying kind of where your gray area is. A lot of executives, I find when I'm working with them, they have a cup of coffee in the morning, and then they maybe put something in their body around 4 o'clock, between 2 and 4 o'clock.
I used to be that person, before my heart attack.
Yeah. And that's typical. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah, breakfast. I have so much respect. I bow down to breakfast. And being consistent and making sure to eat those. Have those meals into meal plan, and I always feel better when our dinner is, a chicken or a fish, or sometimes it's steak.
Sure, absolutely.
And fresh vegetables we roast, and mashing cauliflower, steaming it and mashing it instead of a potato. But if I want to have a potato, I make a baked potato and I eat the hell out of it. But I'm eating real food, and that's made a huge difference. You talked a minute ago about protein, and you preach protein, rightfully so. Where do the calories and the protein fit into? Well, talk about the relationship with, I've always
great question.
On calories, and you're always talking about protein.
Yeah, so I think we were raised to take a look at the numbers in calories, and then hence the 100-calorie snacks came out. Remember that? It was the craze. Mm-hmm. Oh, it's only 100 calories, and this has 2 calories, and so it's about getting away from the number and eating real food. And by eating a piece of chicken or protein or even steak, as you mentioned, having that real food is going to satiate you. It's going to help your body get what it needs. And it's not so much a number. So I like to move away from the numbers. The numbers are a guide for us, but 100-calorie package or snack of, garbage basically versus an apple is completely different,
And the 100 calories has 24 grams of carb.
Yeah.
Do the math, that doesn't make any sense. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I understand
And
it's about getting food that's quick, right? Like there are a lot of foods that you can get that are readily accessible that won't take you a lot of time to cook. Because that's another thing for busy executives. I would take care of myself, if I had the time. And that's what we do. We try to start to change some habits and patterns that you're doing to make the time for that. And that's where that comes in as well.
great. All right, here's my last question so we can start wrapping this up.
Great.
Where does exercise fit into all this conversation with diet and nutrition? Because one thing that I never believed, but I do now, is
Yeah.
that if you want to lose weight, 80% is nutrition and 20% is working out. I'll say that again for everybody out there because it's the truth. 80% nutrition, 20% workout. And that was a real game changer for me. I treat food as fuel now, uh,
Yes, that's the word.
which my gynecologist tried to explain to me when I was 19, and I thought he was crazy, but it's true. He said you treat your body like a car, and you put gas in, and so food is fuel, and by respecting that formula, I took off a lot of weight. I've taken off 47 pounds, and I'm keeping it off. So I know it works. So do you have any input about how is optimal for men to exercise with the goal being more about heart health, weight loss? Although I know that we both have them at the
Absolutely.
same time.
Yeah. So exactly what you said is true. And every doctor, personal trainer is going to say that. You have to put good food in your body, but you have to work out as well too. So it really goes hand in hand. And as it relates to your heart, you want to do cardio. You want to have something where your heart is increasing and pumping.
Mm-hmm.
Brisk walking on a treadmill, running if you like that, doing a spin exercise or riding a bike or something like that is really a great way to do that. But I wouldn't discount resistance and using weights. Like that's a great way to also get your heart rate, going as you continue to do a circuit, if you will, of some weights. But here's the big thing. You have to work out, period.
Mm-hmm.
You have to. Now, what you've done is you've actually increased your workout so much so that you feel so good. And as you feel so good, you put good foods in your body. So I just like to say, we got to get you moving. Are you working out 1 day a week? Great, make it 2. Are you working out 2 days a week? Make it 3, and so on and so forth. To stay younger, and that's my goal, is
Yeah.
to stay younger next year. As you approach 50, you want to start working out really 6 days a week with a 30 minutes of raising that heart rate up, getting the blood flowing in your heart. So you can say, oh my gosh, Nicole, that's a lot. Like, I don't know if I have time for that. But I'm not telling you that you have to do it every single day. I'm saying get to where you are and do more. What about shooting for 5 days a week? You're going to feel better. You're going to put better foods in your body because as you start to work out, you do that. So it's really important. I can't tell you how often the correlation of when clients decide to make the change, they start working out and they start making healthier habits in the kitchen, how amazing they feel. I want your energy back. I want your sleep back. I want you to feel better in your clothes. And that's all part of the process of it. So you have to do it. And I like to say that we make it kind of a habit, and it's really a lot for your mind. We've endured more than we've wanted to last year. And I was always telling my clients, you're moving your body today for your mind, just to release the stress, to release the worry.
Mm-hmm.
So just getting out and doing more is really important. And there's a lot of things that you can do. And it's just taking one baby step at a time. And Patty, to really highlight you, like you're a living example of, you weren't really so much into all this, and you've done a complete 180. And I just applaud you for the messages that you're sending out to people, because we got to keep our heart healthy, and especially for women, this is really, really important. You got to get it, your heart pumping. Walking the dog is great. You can go out and take your dog for a walk, but are you raising your heart rate with that? No, you got to walk a little faster. And that's an important thing. So thank you for highlighting that.
And we're going to say goodbye in just a minute. There's one more thing that I forgot to include, and that is I keep a food log. And I started doing that right after my heart attack. And I was doing it manually for almost a year. And then now I do it. I use an app called Loop. And I faithfully every day track what I'm eating, track my exercise, and then the app calculates carbs, protein, fat, and I actually send those reports to you, Nicole.
That's right.
And that
That's right.
you look at them, and you come back to me after reviewing it, telling me where I'm lacking. And so, just as a last input before we say goodbye, do you think it's a good idea for people to, to track what they're doing every day, track their food, track their exercise?
Absolutely. And I'll tell you why, because we don't know what we're putting in our body unless we're tracking it. And you've taken it to the extreme, and which is awesome, and tracking it every single day and being mindful of it. And that's part of your habit now, which is fantastic. But I do recommend that my clients do it, even if it's for a shorter period of time, because there are empty calories and things that you're putting in that you're not counting for.
Like Hershey Kisses.
Yeah, like Hershey Kisses, or grabbing a little snack for the cabinet. And I find like moms will always, they'll get a snack for their child and they'll pop a couple in their mouth. And so unless you're tracking, you really do not know what you're putting in your body. But then what's really cool and what you like is you can see protein intake, carb intake, sodium intake. And that gives us a really great view of the world. Because when we track, we can't lie, right? It's just, that's what it is. And that's where we go. So it's a really great tool. I recommend it for everyone. There's a lot of free apps. Lose It's one of them. MyFitnessPal is another one. It's whatever you like to do. But even if you track for a week, you'll be amazed as to like, okay, this is what I'm putting in. How can I tweak that a little bit?
Fantastic.
Great question. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That people found this information valuable. I find you to be priceless in my life.
You.
And adore you, and thank you for participating. And for anyone that wants Nicole's information, we'll have that available on the website along with the video. So thank you, and a wonderful day.
Thank you, Patty.
Mwah.
Oh, thank you, Patty. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.